The top newsmakers go head-to-head. Sununu, Kinsley, and Buchanan. Crossfire on CNN International, where great minds come together.
If you can't be there for all the excitement of global sports competition, on the field and around the track, stay on top of the action, the scores and the highlights with CNN International every hour round the clock. And remember, CNN International brings you live coverage of breaking news from around the world.
The Iraqi president appears determined.
Live updates from Europe and the global hotspots.
The residents of Sarajevo forced to dodge snipers.
News features on lifestyles worldwide. International business programs. Plus live reports from the world's financial capitals. In-depth global weather. And interviews with entertainers and experts on international issues.
I get asked in lots of interviews, who are you prepared not to like?
For sports, news, business, and weather, turn to the one source seen in over 200 countries and territories. CNN International, the world's news leader.
This postscript. The ratings are not all bad for President Clinton. By most assessments, he did well at the recent Tokyo Economic Summit and dispelled some European doubts about him. And folks I talked with out in the waterlogged Midwest were pleased to see the president make several visits. They said it shows he cares. Beyond that, of course, results do count. We've had presidents before who were better loved than were their policies. Ronald Reagan tends to come to mind, if that's any solace to Bill Clinton. Tomorrow on Newsmakers Sunday, it's back to the basics of the budget argument. Guests are Deputy Treasury Secretary Roger Altman, point man for the administration's counter-strike force selling the economic plan, and Senator Bob Dole, the Republican minority leader who's leading the attack against it on Capitol Hill. Newsmakers Sunday airs at 10:30 a.m., 5:30 p.m. Eastern here on CNN. Now for all of us at Newsmakers Saturday, thanks for joining us. In Washington, I'm Charles Bierbauer.
For a transcript, send $5 to Journal Graphics, 1535 Grant Street, Denver, Colorado, 80203, or call 1-303-831-9000.
Has a history of award-winning in-depth journalism. Now the best of CNN's reports and specials are featured the first Monday of every month. An hour of thought-provoking and often riveting documentary television. CNN Presents is a showcase of new and original programming, each month taking a comprehensive look at a major issue affecting our lives. CNN Presents, the first Monday of every month on CNN International.
No one covers Europe and the world like CNN International, the world's news leader.
Hello and welcome to CNN Weekend. I'm Andrea Arsenault at the CNN Center in Atlanta. Here's Kirk Client with the latest weather conditions.
It's still in place, a large area of high pressure, a big ridge that extends almost coast to coast across the southern tier of states. It's preventing enough thunderstorms to fire up in the southeast. Of course, the drought continues, the flooding continues just a few hundred miles away, but maybe by the time we get into Wednesday or Thursday, we'll have that ridge begin to dissipate a little bit. Keep your fingers crossed, it's still a ways away. Talk about rain, they've had some in Hawaii, the remnants of what was Hurricane Eugene, the Big Island especially of Hawaii, picking up quite a bit of rain activity. Hot in the southwest, but they're used to that and they don't have the humidity. Hot, many locations close to 100 degrees. And as far as the forecast goes, cool, some snow in the higher elevations in the Rocky Mountains. Can you believe that? Enjoy the weekend in New England. Here's some specific forecast for Saturday. And the news continues here on CNN.
A spectacular air show air crash between two Russian fighter jets. Coming up, we'll tell you what happened.
Once upon a time, an evil guardian named Pristine Fig kept a little girl named Robin locked away in an attic until something wonderful happened.
Who are you?
Well, two things.
He's Tom, and I'm Jerry.
Get ready for the adventure of a lifetime.
They're following us!
We're friends to the end.
Turner Pictures Worldwide presents, for the first time in history, Tom and Jerry, the movie. After years of fighting, they finally discovered something worth fighting for. Each other.
We're friends to the end.
From CNN International, this is World News.
Hello and welcome to World News. I'm Relitza Vasilova. Bosnia's three warring factions have agreed to a ceasefire which is scheduled to take effect at 800 GMT Sunday. The UN-brokered truce could clear the way for another round of peace talks in Geneva. At the request of the Bosnian presidency, the negotiations have been postponed until Tuesday. CNN's Christian Amanpour takes a look at what Bosnian Muslims think about their options for peace.
A shell crashes outside the morgue, even as the men are mopping up the freshest blood spilled. There are 19 bodies here today, civilians and soldiers, victims of the latest onslaught in and around Sarajevo. Because of the continued killing, new Geneva peace talks have been delayed at the request of the Bosnian president. But even if they do attend, Bosnians fear they will be forced to accept a plan that leaves them with no more than a small Muslim enclave. They get very angry when asked if they want to live in an Islamic state. The answer, they say, is no. More than 30% of our marriages are mixed, he says. Should we all now separate and divorce just because of those wild people who are shelling from the hills? But the writing appears to be on the wall. Multi-ethnic Bosnia is dying with its people.
If we are now to decide to save Bosnia as a piece of land or to save our Muslim people, I think it is going to be our decision to save Muslim people.
And who will help save Bosnia? Not the West. It's reluctant even to enforce its own safe haven policy. And furthermore, it is pressing the Muslims to negotiate a Serb-Croat plan for partition. They believe they are paying simply for being Muslim.
I'm 100% sure that if majority of people in Bosnia were not Muslims, the behavior of European community will be completely different.
But even Islamic countries have offered little more than financial support to these Muslims caught in the cultural crossroads.
We Bosnian Muslims belong to no one. we belong to ourselves. We are not enough Europeans to be accepted by Europe. We are not enough Muslims to be accepted by the Muslim countries.
With no one to turn to, they don't have a fighting chance. And now, after 16 months of war, the West wants to be rid of this problem, and it is pressing the Muslims to accept peace by negotiation. But the Muslims fear that even if they do accept partition, the Serbs and the Croats will eventually force them out of Bosnia altogether. Christiana Manpour, CNN, Sarajevo.
In Somalia, 2 UN peacekeepers from the U.S. were wounded Saturday in the capital city of Mogadishu. A UN spokesman says Somali gunmen fired on a convoy that was returning to the university compound where UN officials are staying. The spokesman says the American soldiers returned fire and killed 2 of the Somali gunmen. In Moscow, there's widespread confusion after word of a surprise monetary system reform by the Russian central bank. On Monday morning, it will start withdrawing billions of old rubles from circulation. The bank says Russians will have until August 7th to exchange their old rubles for ones printed in 1993. But they're limited to an exchange of only 35,000 rubles, about $35 US at current exchange rates. Amounts over that limit will have to be placed on a 6-month deposit with the state savings bank. Earlier, we spoke with Russian Deputy Finance Minister Andrei Kuzmin, who explained the reason for this move.
The central bank announced 3 weeks ago that the old rubles would be withdrawn from circulation. And the weight, the influence of the monetary stock, which is located in other republics of the former Soviet Union, is a rather big one. I think that's the main reason for the accelerated exchange of old rubles for the new one.
The reform is also aimed at eliminating forgeries. 2 Russian jet fighters collided in midair at a British air show Saturday. The 2 MiG jets flew so close together, their wings clipped. Both pilots suffered injuries after ejecting. Officials say more of the spectators were treated for shock, but there were no serious casualties. Tens of thousands of people had gathered in Fairford, England, to watch one of the largest military air shows in the world. In the northern Chinese province of Ningxia, investigators are searching the debris of Friday's plane crash for the flight recorder. 59 of the 113 people on board died when the Chinese airliner crashed during takeoff. In Turkey, at least 49 people were killed and about 30 were injured when 2 passenger buses crashed head-on. The vehicles collided Saturday morning outside Avanos, 300 kilometers southeast of Ankara. Many of the injured were in serious condition. World News continues in just a moment with an update on the South Asia floods. Stay with us.
She's in New York. He's in LA. And between them, you'll find the biggest stars, hottest movies, and the latest in TV, music, and the stage. From Broadway to Hollywood, in front of the camera and behind the scenes, if entertainment's making news, Jim Murray and Lauren Sidney will tell you what's happening in Showbiz Today. Live, weeknights, only on CNN International.
In the Himalayan country of Nepal, the death toll from monsoon floods is rising by the hour. Devastating floodwaters have claimed more than 1,100 lives in that country, and hundreds have died in neighboring India and Bangladesh. CNN's Ashish Rai reports.
The worst affected country is the mountainous kingdom of Nepal. Over 1,000 people have been killed here. Nepalese officials fear the final death toll could double when reports come in from isolated areas of this impoverished country where communications are poor. In neighboring India, around 750 people are feared dead. Authorities on the outskirts of the capital, New Delhi, sounded an alert on Saturday as heavy rains gave rise to dangerous flooding. The water submerged hundreds of houses and factories. It's the worst floods near New Delhi for almost 20 years. As news of a dozen deaths spread through the area, survivors desperately scrambled to safety. The Indian Army moved in with boats to help the stricken people. Then medical teams with first aid and other volunteers with milk, bread and biscuits. Food riots have been reported from other parts of India, and no improvement in the situation is forecast over the weekend. Ashish Rai, CNN, New Delhi.
For the second time in a week, the shuttle astronauts got all dressed up with nowhere to go. The launch of the Space Shuttle Discovery was scrubbed Saturday because of a booster problem. Computers stopped the countdown just 19 seconds before liftoff. NASA officials expect the mission to be delayed at least a week. 1 week ago, the launch was canceled because of a faulty electronic switch. More people are turning to health spas to relieve stress. CNN medical correspondent Rhonda Rowland takes us on a tour of some spas next on HealthWorks. I'm Relitza Vasilova. Thanks for watching.
Almost a third of the U.S. workforce spends more than 40 hours a week on the job. Surveys show adults spend a lot less time on leisure, 16 hours a week. For many, this means more stress as they try to balance the demands of work, family, and self. Last year, 1 million Americans searched for relief at health spas. We'll show you why.